After a long off-season, it's time to get back to action and let racing cars do what they do best and let loose on the racing circuit. Hello, everyone. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by Chaz Draycott, and we are here for the round one of the Mobileye GT World Challenge AJ Esports Sprint at Barcelona. And Chaz, I for one cannot wait to get this hour-long event started. It is going to be a fantastic hour of racing action.
It really is indeed, DJ. Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be here. What is this morning here in the UK? Obviously, everybody joining us from all around the world, we welcome you to today's broadcast and to today's event. And what a place to start the season, DJ. Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, an amazingly difficult track. You know, quite an understated one in my opinion. I know it's not everybody's favourite, but it is a real treat to have on the calendar, I think. It's got a lot of fast corners, a lot of slow corners. It's got a bit of everything to throw at these drivers, hasn't it?
It really and truly does. A truly tale of different parts of the layout. Obviously, that tight and twisting third sector that always gets mentioned, the fast and sweeping first sector. But let's bring our audience through our entry list here today, as we have got a full field of drivers. There you can see driving everything from Audis, Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, Mercedes, McLarens, BMW, Porsche, Honda, Bentley, everyone filling up that chart. And obviously broken down here into two categories today in the Pro and Silver class, Chaz, to just add a little bit more racing action to what is already a very packed schedule.
Yeah, that's what makes this really exciting for us. You know, we've not got teams with multiple drivers in here. That makes our job a little bit easier, it must be said, when it's one driver per car. But the fact that there's two classes in this championship means that everybody's got something to fight for. And every time that you see two cars together on track doesn't always mean they're necessarily fighting for position in their own class. You know, we will see some silver drivers maybe ahead of some of the pros as the race goes on, those two classes mixing in the middle of the field. And that's great to see, because then you really get to assess these drivers' mental attitudes towards certain parts of the race. So, you know, if you've got somebody in the pro class that's making up a bit of lost ground from early on and trying to come back through the field, if you've got somebody silver in the way of them, this silver driver, you know, they may put up a bit of a fight if they have to think about the drivers in their own class behind them, or they may actually just think, you know what, I'm going to let this guy go, you know, I'm going to just jump out of the way. But you never know what to expect, because at the end of the day, these guys are racing drivers and sim races. They are some of the most unpredictable people on the earth, aren't they?
You're not wrong about that, and we'll have to see how they play out there and be able to do that. But right now, we want to bring you to a little bit of a track guide that we have to better familiarize yourself with it. Ryan Gill walking us through a lap around this Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya.
Welcome to your Mobileye track overview here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. We're going to jump on board with Ryan Houlihan in the BMW M4 GT3. As we come out the final corner, we begin the long run down the main start-finish straight as we move to the left side of the circuit to prepare for turn 1. We want to use the curb and the AstroTurf on the left to widen the entry of corner as much as possible before turning in early and cutting the inside of turn 1, riding the curb as we head through turn 2. Once entering turn 3, want to hug the inside line initially, modulate the throttle before powering out of the corner and going as wide as the track limits allow on the left side of the circuit. Just keep 2 tyres on the wide line before the curb, and then take a tight line as you go through the Repsol corner, cutting in early to prepare yourself for turn 5. And take a sharp line through this corner as you use to look as much of the exit curb as you can. Next, you'll go flat through the kink of turn 6 and brake once you reach the curb on the right side of the circuit. Take a wide line through 7 and then straight line as much of turn 8 as you can before braking for turn 9 once the curb ends. Run up to the inside of the curb as you can and launch yourself out of the corner, going as wide on the exit as possible whilst obeying track limits. Move to the right hand side of the circuit and brake towards the end of the gravel trap near the entry of the La Caixa hairpin. Tuck the car inside and use as much of the exit as you can. Go straight through turn 11 and then try to use the inside line of turn 12 and go nice and wide on the exit before a sharp turn for turn 13. Then you'll brake just as you get to the chicane and use as much of the curbs as the car allows you to before putting down the power and blasting through turn 16 and back onto the main start finish straight to do it all over again.
And that was our track guide, narrated by Ryan Gill, driven by Ryan Houlihan there. An absolutely great look at this circuit. A couple of good passing opportunities there for us, Chaz. Hopefully going to present some good action for us on track.
Yeah, it should do. I mean, we've got the humongous straight here at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. You know, it's a really, really long straight down to turns 1 and 2. We do often see quite a lot of slipstreaming going on there. The run out of the final corner, turn 16, is so important, though. And obviously lining it up for the chicane just before that is even more important. It's one of those circuits where all of the corners do flow into one another a bit. You know, you have to properly set a move up here. The run out of turn 9 down to the hard braking zone at turn 10. Not as hard as it used to be, though, as it's a much shallower corner now. They've actually stopped using the really tight hairpin. I was there in November last year, actually, at this circuit, and I was quite surprised to see that they've completely blocked that off now. You know, they've built a barrier over the entrance to that corner. It's basically just a load of dust and rubble now on the inside of that corner. It's not really used at all. So we do have maybe a bit more of an overtaking opportunity, in fact, with the fact that you don't have to completely stop on the apex like you used to. I think everybody realised eventually that that corner, it was sort of killing the momentum of the circuit at that point, wasn't it? And now it's a lot more open, which is the layout that the bikes have always used. It just makes the sort of pace of the last sector a little bit higher. I think it's a really entertaining part of the circuit.
Yeah, it certainly is, and there's plenty of good rhythm, as you said, specifically finding it out over the course of the track, and plenty of good areas for drivers to get their nose out. And, you know, normally we talk about some side-by-side action going into those first corners as we get a view of those drivers right there. Everybody's starting to strap themselves into the rig, get a little bit loosened up here, as I have a fellow commentator that always likes to say adrenaline is not your friend in these moments. So you can see those drivers just kind of trying to relax a little bit before they get going.
Yeah, and that's it. You know, everybody has their own little sort of process and prep before a race and before a race meeting. And even as sim races, you know, it gets very, very nerve-wracking. I mean, I'm sure you and I both know a number of drivers, DJ, that have come from doing things in the real world and during lockdown and the last couple of years. They've obviously jumped onto the world of sim racing to do their racing. And I know a number of drivers that say they get more nervous for a sim race than a real world race. Have you had the same?
Indeed, I have, and I'm not sure entirely what to attribute it to. I think it's a little bit of just sort of locking in, but we are ready and locked in here to go racing. There you can see the grid setting out, getting ready for the formation lap as they get ready to go. As we said, plenty of makes and models of cars as we slowly work our way down the grid there. Leading off, it looks like in pole position is going to be Filippo Bokita, Dylan Tan behind them, Rahman Milana, Ali Mohammed, plenty of drivers there behind Pratma and Milana in 6th, Mahum in 7th, Nabil in 8th, O'Hara 9th, and De Jong in 10th.
And then just behind in 11th position, it seems like the 969 machine, which is Lee at the wheel. Then we have Baldwin, no, not James, in 12th position. Stanley and Houlihan make up row 7 ahead of Huang and Reyes. Then in 17th position, it is Smith. It's going to be intriguing to see what he can do from there, to be honest with you, in the number 25 car. Zachary Smith's actually been... he's raced in something else. I can't remember where I've seen him before, but I'm sure I've commentated on Zach before, and he was exciting last time, so I'll make sure I remember that. Brayton is next up in the Audi ahead of Woods, and then Shirakawa in the number 39 Ferrari, rounding out your top 20.
In 21st position, it's going to be Long Aoyang in there, and Moreno flanking him. Lam Law will be 23rd, followed by Lorenzen. Martineau in 25th in that number 32 McLaren, followed by Cow there in the 951 BMW. Hobbs will be lining up in 27th with Singh to his outside. Segir and Sunjoto will round out your top 30.
Next up in 31st place is going to be Ilham Ulkarim Shakil, with Sean Madison alongside on row 16. It's crazy to think we go that far down, isn't it? Kobe Chan is 33rd alongside Sergei Mironenko in the number 7 Audi. Then it's Chris Sang and Oscar Liu sharing row 18. Thanathip Thanalapanan is going to be in 37th in the McLaren alongside Yugo Osaki in the Honda. And then rounding out your top 40 is Ryan Chan and Matthew Pignata.
Hyung Long Leung is going to be in 41st, and then Lai in 42nd. Hunter and Norman making out the rest of this 44 car field. A little bit unbelievable to think that we have 44 cars here to make it around to this Barcelona circuit, and I certainly think that with 44 cars, we're going to be talking about traffic problems over the course of this race, Jazz.
Yeah, definitely. You know, this is a circuit where traffic can affect a result quite easily. You know, it's not the widest of circuits in places. A lot of these corners are very one line, as we call them. You know, there's only one optimal line around them. You don't see people sort of changing up how they approach or exit a corner to try and line things up. It's going to be very, very exciting, though, I think, this race, because, as I've mentioned, you know, everybody sort of goes on and on about Formula One here and says that the races aren't ever that interesting, but I honestly think they have their own intrigue in a way, because drivers have to be so patient at certain points, and with all these makes and models that we get in the wonders of GT3 racing in the modern age, it's just absolutely great to see it. And like you say, a 44 car grid is a very, very big one indeed, especially when it comes to GT3 cars. I was actually in Italy on the weekend commentating on Clio Cup, where we had 43 cars, and based on the size of a Clio, you know, that's not so bad. You can get a lot of Clios around a circuit, but when it comes to these big, beefy GT3 cars, I mean, look at the size of the number 74 Mercedes on the right there, Javier Lai. It is a big old car, and most of these GT3 machines are. So I think it's going to be a little bit congested at certain points. The opening laps are going to be the most important ones, as they often are, but more for the fact that people are going to have to sort of back out and just concede a bit of time, I reckon.
Yeah, and that patience will be definitely rewarded to some of these drivers. It is a sprint race, but it is a longer sprint race. Obviously, they're at an hour long, so they're going to have to be a little bit careful as they go. And just to give you an idea of how close everything is, about the top 20 or so separated by roughly a second or so in qualifying. This is a very tightly packed field. This is going to have a lot of very, very close drivers running up against one another.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, the pace has been so close together, like you say. It's just been absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to see how everybody manages themselves in the opening stages. There is going to be a lot of mental games going on here, as there often is in races like this. It's an hour long. You know, you cannot just absolutely rag it all the time. I mean, to be honest with you, in modern day GT racing and in endurance racing as well, it has become a sort of long sprint race because of the reliability. Obviously, reliability here is not an issue that we have to worry about in terms of the cars in sim racing, but we leave the reliability down to the hardware and software that these drivers are running, don't we, DJ?
We do indeed, and that is sort of the analogy that we run to a mechanical failure out on track. If something were to happen to the sim rigs that these drivers are running in, hopefully we don't see any of that today, but it is not out of the question that we see an errant wheel failure or a pedal failure. It is something that I have had the unfortunate experience to be a part of a couple of times when I've been racing. We follow up here on Philippa Bakita as she works her way up that hill, that rising first couple of corners there, bringing the field around on this formation lap.
Yeah, the Porsche looking good at the front of the field as well. It's the first Porsche by quite a long way as well. In 13th position is the next car, which is the number 73 of Ferris Stanley, just ahead of Houlihan in the 999 BMW. But it's great to see such a mix, actually. A number of the races that I've commentated recently on Assetto Corsa Competizione have actually had a sort of one make feel to them, where a lot of drivers, they know what the sort of OP car is, as they say at the time, and a lot of drivers do choose that car, obviously, to be competitive and to be on the pace. But right now, the balance of performance looking very, very good indeed. And we have a Porsche, a Mercedes, a Bentley, Ferrari, Aston Martin, all inside the top five different manufacturers. And that's always good to see, because it just shows how well matched the sim is to the real world, doesn't it, DJ? It really represents GT3 racing in a strong light.
It certainly does. I mean, the balanced performance that you see both copied here in ACC as well as in the real world, making sure that all of these cars run relatively similar lap times, and the differences between them are where they generate those speeds. You're going to have some cars that are a little bit faster in a straight line. You're going to have some that are a little bit quicker around the twisty bits. It's just all going to depend a little bit on the way that they go and the way that they run. As we start to get a little bit more formed up here, working our way into the third sector, that is where everything will start to form up. You saw Philip there in that 326 start to weave a little bit back and forth, get some heat into those tires, make sure everything is nice and warmed up. You're also going to want to be applying the brakes a little bit here, making sure the brakes are ready to go before we get going down into that first corner in the heavy braking zone that is turn 1 down the hill. Now coming through those last final chicanes, that tricky third sector that you talked about earlier, Chaz, and how it can really throw a driver or two off. The field starting to form up here behind Tan and Bokita as we get ready to go racing for the first race here in the Asia Sprint Series. Field forming down behind as we wait for the green flag. All eyes going to the flag stand, and there's the flag. We are racing in Barcelona. It's a good start there for Filippo Bokita, but it looks like Tan is going to start to challenge a little bit on the outside. That Bentley there behind Al Brachmont is going to be also challenging. Bokita looking like she's getting a little bit swamped out, but we'll hold that inside line. They're 3 wide going down into the corner. A little bit of bumping and banging, and that is the Bentley out wide.
Yeah, Rakhmat ran a little bit wide there. Looks like Tan's got it done as well. We've got cars off in the background. There's a car around in front of a big chunk of them in the rear end of the field. Actually, Tan's still around the outside. Bukita door banging on the way down into turn 4. Still makes it work though. And then Tan, fantastic cutback in the 144 Mercedes. Just about gets that done. This is brilliant stuff early on. Bukita comes back over to the right, tries to squeeze Tan away, runs a little bit deep into turn 5 though. They're argy-bargy all the way around. The Ferrari coming through there as well. Is that Alif making it down the inside? Just doesn't quite get the overlap. How Bukita has stayed in front there, I do not know, but that was incredible racing between the two of them. And now look, Tan is now tucked right back in behind that Porsche and will try to stick with her as long as possible. But great start by Bukita amongst all that pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure there. That Porsche looking a little bit swamped in the first stages of that race. We jump on board with Dylan Tan here. A little bit wide, taking that apex just a little bit later, trying to carry some more momentum through the corner is that Mercedes Alif and Milana. They're behind, running 1, 2, 3, 4 as they get ready to go down into the tricky braking zone here of Sector 3.
Yeah, very start-stop here. The chicane's so hard, but the Porsche looks really nimble through there, actually. Having the engine that far back seems to make that much of a difference, it seems. The front end just really able to sort of scoop around those horrible little curbs in that chicane. I mean, I, like many, really despise that chicane. I think it breaks up the flow of a wonderful circuit. Tan does the fastest lap to begin with, but these 4 actually starting to break away now as Rakhmat and O'Hara were side by side in the background, but this is on board with Molana in 4th position in the AMG LOR car. Just following on from the Ferrari. Still 3 manufacturers inside the top 3 after the first lap, but really tidy stuff up front, you know. A little bit of contact here and there, DJ, but that was just phenomenal racing because none of them really lost out a hell of a lot from it, did they?
No, they didn't. Our biggest loser there was Rockbot, who has dropped down to 6th place here as they go, 5th place, able to get that move done over Pratma. O'Hara losing out a little bit as well, falling down the order. There you can see Milana on your screen, just keeping that focus down as they break here, coming up the hill, rising back up. And this is where you've got to worry a little bit about that aero wash as they come through. Can be a little tricky in this corner in dirty air.
Yeah, turn 9 is absolutely horrible sometimes when you're chasing another car, because if you are close enough behind them, you can't see the apex, and then let alone you've got the aero wash to go with it as well. And the fact that you can't even see the exit when you're on your own, you know, if you've not got a car blocking your view, it is a blind exit to run over that curb there. You've got to be careful of track limits. Mercedes off in the background there, a little bit side by side as they go through turn 10. But we look here at Dafa Nabil in the 29 BMW M4 GT3. It's been great to have the M4 added to the roster here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We've also got the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2 just behind there of Duong in the 281 machine. You can tell the Evo 2 apart from the other Audis by the fact that the swan neck wing supports actually go over the back of the wing now rather than going over the front. Obviously Audi have found some sort of benefit in that. They're also doing it on the brand new RS3 TCR car as well. There is the 118 machine around of Huang, and well, he certainly had a bit of contact from one of the Bentleys there. There was a bit of shenanigans going on. That seemed like they'd both gone off at the chicane and then had a bit of a fight on the exit. Lovely attempt at a cutback there by Duong. Just can't get around that BM. That's a big old car to try and get around as well, that BMW. It doesn't look big on its own, but when you see it compared to the Audi, it's a good old boat, isn't it?
Yeah, that Audi, a very, very tight, very nimble little car there, it often is said, but as it tries to go here, little bit of a wider run there that'll cost that Audi a little bit of time there for Duong, as it not able to get that move done. Looks like just searching for a little bit of grip, trying to find some offsetting lines there, looking for that crossover, as you mentioned earlier. They got to be careful a little bit, but we're going to go back here for a replay of the start and taking a look in the midfield. We're focusing on Madison in that Honda. This was the big kerfluffle that we saw in the back.
So an Aston Martin there, even on the grass on the outside. They're 4 wide in front. Madison, as you can see in the red, white and black Honda on the inside. Oh, it really checks up. And then, oh, there's contact ahead. One of the BMWs goes around, somehow makes it through. But look, even more of them get involved in the background. Oh, contact with the R8 as well. And then the BMW tries to avoid, big old slide and a spin, and oh man, oh, just that slight overcorrection. And to be fair, the BMW actually helps out there and says, boop, off you go on, carry on. Bit of encouragement, but yeah, it's it all got a bit messy there, but that's what happens, isn't it, when we've got this many cars sometimes.
Yeah, it certainly does, and certainly when you try to go 4 wide down there, Dathanabiel here, we focus back on one of the BMWs that looks a little bit cleaner as they run around right now, going down, continue to have Duong putting good pressure there in that Audi. It looked a little bit out of sorts earlier on. Let's jump back up in the field, though. This is a Leaf as the battle for P1 continues to be very, very close. Only about a second separating Bakita, Tan, and a Leaf, and Molana there not too far behind as well.
Yeah, it's still nice and close between this little quartet up front. We've got the 2 Mercedes in there, Tan and Molana, both doing a good job for Mercedes-AMG Esports team LOR. So it's good to see them representing half of this top 4, but the Ferrari is very much the filling in the sandwich right now. And here's a quick moment to discuss this actually, DJ, because previously I know a number of commentators that would have said that was a Mercedes sandwich, but it's not, because the Ferrari is the filling, so it's surely a Ferrari sandwich with the Mercedes bread.
I'll call it 6 one way, half dozen the other, however you want to say it. I'll go with you
sit on
there
that
on
fence,
that one,
Sunshine. You sit on that fence, Sunshine. Don't get any splinters. But it's great to see. A Leaf, though, has to concentrate on a Mercedes in front and Mercedes behind. All he's got to tell them apart is a different coloured stripe down the middle. Now here is William Sunjoto, and there, just behind him in the Aston Martin, is Moreno looking down the inside, puts the pressure on, makes sure that Sunjoto runs a little bit wide there, just tries to alert him to the Aston Martin's presence. Not that you need alerting to it. Look at it, it's such an angry looking machine. It's a gorgeous car. The Aston Martin Vantage GT3 makes a hell of a noise to go with it as well. But he's maybe just trying to see around the BMW. It'll feel like he's in some sort of confinement at the moment. He's got the massive BM in front of him, then the absolute housing estate that is the Bentley Continental behind him. I actually live a stone's throw away from the Bentley factory. I can see it from my window right now. And I tell you, some of the cars that you see coming down here, you forget how big they are until you see them on the little country roads of Cheshire. Replay though, DJ.
Yeah, replay back here as we focus in on the Mercedes-AMG, and I believe that little bit of contact coming through that final corner. This was that incident that we saw earlier. Oh, that is not a good rejoin. That is not the way you want to rejoin the track at all. Oh no, and here comes some more tipping around. Oh my goodness, the 118, not exactly ideal.
No, I could just hear the Benny Hill music playing in my head then as I was watching that. It was just moment after moment. It was all a bit of a check up into the chicane, but again, that's just the nature of that corner. Cars follow each other so closely through there, and at such a level where these guys have an incredible high pace about them. If they have to concede or slow down a little bit, it can sometimes catch them out because, you know, these guys get so robotic sometimes in terms of how they just churn the laps away. It can be a bit of a shame when there is a checkup like that because it affects them massively. Here's Ferris Stanley in the Rocket Simsport Porsche. Good-looking car indeed, obviously running the sort of Brawn-esque colours that we would have seen a long, long time ago, of which Mr. Button is associated. But he's got another one of the... Well, apparently it was a Ferrari in the last sector, but obviously Massoum has lost a bit of time to Lee, and Lee has got through in the 969 BMW. 4 places gained so far by Ferris Stanley, though. So a good start to the race in the opening laps. Already, we're nearly 10 minutes through this race, DJ, and time certainly flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And there you can see on your screen Race Control taking a look at the 951 and the other cars involved in that first lap incident. A little bit of side-by-side here. Zachary Smith getting his elbows out there in the 25 machine, and it continues to bang doors there with the number 11 of Seguer as they work their way up the hill. Seguer says, that is my position, and you are not taking it away from me.
Yeah, that was a bit of give what you get there, wasn't it? He just... I think, to be honest with you, Smith kind of got squeezed in on the apex there by Seguer, and then he just sort of thought, well, I'm going to stick my nose back down the inside again. Love the livery on both of these cars. It reminds me of the Falcon Tyres livery, actually, that Aston Martin with the green and the blue gradient on it. Still, very, very good-looking cars indeed in this field, and you know, some of these teams, they represent themselves very, very well with beautiful-looking machines. They have fantastic branding about them. This is a nice three-way fight now, actually, as Rayton is, well, right in there, you could say, in the Audi. Number 85 machine, only a couple of lengths back. And right now, Smith is in a very unenviable position where he's having to attack the car in front while having to think about defending as well. The Audi looks really tight through turn 10.
Yeah, very, very tight through turn 10, and I would watch for the Audi to be a little bit good here through this third sector as well. Those tight and twisty turns may be able to favor it, and indeed able to gain up a little bit there under braking. See how nimble that little car is. That Evo 2 doing a good job to be able to come in right and trying to get it as they now accelerate their way onto the main straightaway. The Audi losing a little bit of ground. And there again, like we talked about, the cars making up the time in different areas. The Audi able to make it through those tighter corners. The Aston Martin clearly having a little bit more oomph off of the line.
Yeah, it does have that little pinch out of the corner, or the punch, I should say, out of the corner. And you do see that in GT3 cars. It's interesting that even though the balance of performance works so well, and over a lap they will have really, really close times, and you know, the balance is beautiful, you do see a few characteristics sometimes from the cars. You can tell when a certain machine has just that little bit of an edge, maybe mid-corner or on corner exit or top end. You know, you do see the differences, but then they'll have some problem elsewhere that might not be so visible. You know, if it's understeering through quick corners, or if it doesn't quite get on the brakes as well as other cars. It's easier to see the advantages of a car than the disadvantages, is what I'm saying. So, you know, you'll have people that will complain that, oh, this car's too fast in a straight line, it should be nerfed. But then, you know, what they don't see is the fact that it's an absolute pig on the brakes and the drivers are fighting it all the time. A Leaf is fighting all the time here by the look of it, though. The beautiful SEM 9 flash axle Ferrari has quite a lot of company in the form of Mercedes right now. But all these cars actually running V8 engines, but very different sounds coming out of them. The Ferrari running the twin-turbo, very high revving V8 that most Ferraris have these days, while the Mercedes has that incredible beefy roar about it, the really low grumble that it's always had. And they're looking very even so far, but the thing is, DJ, they don't want to fight too much at this stage, do they? Because Bokita is just getting away as this race progresses.
And that was exactly what I was going to say there. Bokita able to pull about a 1.1 second advantage away from Dylan Tan there, and that is going to be crucial. If she can continue to pull that out a little bit more, that means that she will be able to have a break in the slipstream. That will be very, very good. Whoa! Was Rayton making a big move down the inside of the 11.
Flipping heck, he needed to put bait on the end of that. He threw it that far. Flipping heck. Amazing stuff by Terry Rayton. Really, really good long send there. And it was, to be fair, great awareness by Zachary Smith to sort of let it run a little bit wide in turn one to make sure there was no contact that took them both out of the race. With Rayton down the inside again. Oh, I love sending this Audi through. but still they both continue, and that's one of the beauties of Assetto Corsa Competizione. The contact physics really, really spot on here, so both cars don't just go spiraling out of the way. But look at that, all it takes is 2 moves and all of a sudden he's under pressure from Law, and then Martono's not too far behind either in the McLaren, so he needs to be careful about having these little stabs here at Seguir, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does, and Yatlam Law now in that BMW, starting to close in behind, as you said, in the 390 to 32 of Martono, looking pretty good off of the line there. We may see a little bit of a move coming down into the hairpin at the end of the back straightaway. A little bit of a defensive move there from Rayton, as he called that right. Yatlam Law thinking about that move, but the McLaren there for Martono, again, looking very, very strong off of the line. That orange machine, the 32, coming around here, as now they've got to break down into the fiddly bits, down to this slow sector. Who's going to get the jump off of the line?
Yeah, it's all about that punch out the corner. It looked like Seguir went a little bit deep. Interesting though, wasn't it? Because Law closed right up to Rayton, and then as soon as Rayton went for a bit of a defensive move, Law was then suddenly backed up into Martono. That's just how this circuit is sometimes. You can be attacking one corner, and then if you just get it that slight bit wrong, or if you go maybe a bit too defensive, or even a bit too aggressive, you know, if you just step one side of the line either way, then you either find yourself under attack again or in a position to make a move. It's an incredible circuit like that, and these cars certainly do promote that sort of racing as well. But this is great stuff between all of these guys, and it's quite quickly spread out there because Smith has now disappeared ahead of Seguir. As we look now at Ferris Stanley in the Porsche, he's trying to get past O'Hara in the Mercedes, but this is Pro versus Silver. Let's not forget about the classes as well. Bakida may be running away with the lead right now, but that is the lead in Silver, whereas Tan, Alif and Molana are fighting over the Pro class. So the pit window is open now at this point, so we could see some strategies come into play here. Maybe a couple of drivers here, DJ, that will be thinking, I don't want to be in this traffic all the way through. Maybe they might want to duck out quite quickly.
It may be as Ferris Stanley, maybe one of those looking like he's getting a little bit bottled up behind O'Hara there, as O'Hara now gets a better run off of the hairpin to try to make a move on Pratma as they now come up the hill around this curving corner here before they plunge down into Sector 3. And yeah, that could be a good way to do it. And what these guys will have is very similar to a normal GT race setting. They'll have a team in their ear looking at gaps on track, being able to tell them where and when they're going to want to pit, if they're going to be able to come out in some clean air, if they're going to have those gaps that we talk about. And I think especially if the leaders come up behind some lap traffic here, they could certainly want to dive in a little bit early. But right now, the strategy we normally tend to see is stay out. Big lunge there from behind from Nabeel, trying to make that move work.
Yeah, that was nearly an absolute disaster, but this is the thing. These guys really do walk the line, don't they, when it comes to being on the complete edge of getting it right and getting it wrong, to be honest with you. It's certainly a fine art. But right now, Alif here, very, very focused. You see him there in the bottom right of your screen. And just in front of him, Molana just behind. In quite a decent position, though, because it seems like these Mercedes, that, you know, they're not pushing too hard right now, and Molana is not looking to make an attack at this point. I think they're settled into this opening stint that they're going to have, and they're just going to wait and see how the race develops. And I think that's important, isn't it, in a race like this when it's an hour long?
Yeah, to be able to settle in and just feel the rhythm. You talked about, speaking of feeling the rhythm, that was Tan not exactly feeling the rhythm there, a little bit wide of the line coming down into the hairpin. But this is normally the time that you do want to just kind of get yourself attuned to it. Feel what the car is doing. Alif now having a little bit of a problem. I think we're jinxing these guys here, Chaz. We're talking about rhythm and settling in, and they're running all over the place.
Yeah, well, this is the commentator's curse. This is what I'm trying to do, you see, DJ. What you've got to do is say, oh, yeah, he's doing really well, and then just watch it all fall apart. There's a friend of mine, Ed May, that does commentary as well, and honestly, I've never met a commentator with such a powerful commentator's curse. Speaking of that, though, Molana is now right behind Alif. Alif goes all the way over to the right-hand side to try and cover off the inside line, make sure Molana has to go the long way round, but sometimes that can work against you, because when you're in a chicane-like corner like this, it can mean that you're on the outside, the inside. There is Ferris Stanley. Speaking of on the inside, he's on the inside of the pit lane right now in the 73 Porsche. Baldwin coming in as well in the 449 Ferrari. So, as expected, DJ, some of them just thinking, nah, I can't be fussed with this traffic right now. You know, stuff that noise. We're going to get out of it.
We'll have to see how that strategy plays out later on in the race. A 30-minute pit window to be open here across the board, so we'll see what that ends up shaking out to by the time that pit window closes. Stanley getting service there. No tires being taken, just splashes of fuel here to be able to get to the end for all of these drivers. Watching again as Leaf continues to hold off that pressure from behind from Milana, and Rockmont not doing a terrible job in catching back into that group. Only 1.1 seconds behind. Remember, starting farther up in the field, getting a little bit involved in some incidents in that Bentley in the first corner, and Rockbot putting in a great drive to be able to close back down.
Yeah, doing a mega job at the moment, and that's the thing. If you do get into a bit of a battle and lose time, you have to very quickly get it back again. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you're on the back foot. It's going to get into your own head then as well, and you'll constantly feel like you have to sort of make up for something. And as a driver, that's not what you want. That's why having such a clean start is so important. You know, you really have to just make sure you are not trying to sort of make back up for something over the rest of the race. We're just over 40 minutes from the end of this race. We're just about to hit a third race distance. There's two of the BMWs making their way through the final corners. That's Wong chasing down Nabil, cars 9 and 29, but in the opposite order. Now, interesting to see that the BMW's not quite as OP as people make out, but that's probably a good thing, really. Otherwise, this would be just like a BMW Indoors Championship. As coming out of the pit lane there is one of the Hondas, I believe. Look like an NSX, at least from distance, as they quite easily get around them. And to be fair, it's actually quite a dangerous pit exit, isn't it, here at Catalunya? You would think that it'd be safe because of how long they've got down to Tier 1, but if you get a car that's going up to speed and trying to defend their position, you're on a tighter inside line into Turn 1, and people can often clip the curb there and run wide.
Yes, they can, and that's something you've got to watch out for, and we'll continue to watch out for as the 24 or so minutes left to go in this pit window continue to open up, though. Whoa, Wong getting a little bit squirrely there and having some fun trying to control the car back up underneath him. Marco bringing that Z Challenge Racing number 9 machine back up behind Nabil, trying to keep the pressure there. And Chaz, that can be one of the problems. You know, we often talk about drivers attacking and putting pressure on the driver in front to try to force a mistake, but it's just as easy to make a mistake if you are the attacker in that position.
Yeah, that's it. If you put too much pressure on yourself and try to really fire the car forward, then you can just overdo it that slight bit. What you've got to do is just maybe assess the situation, see what your rival is doing or your competitor ahead of you, and just assess where you might have a little bit of an advantage on them. Because at the end of the day, if you're where you are right now, if you're Marco Wong, you know that you're stuck behind Nabil. At some point on the circuit, you must be quicker than him. You just need to get a few laps under your belt. You've got quite a long time left in the race. Get a few laps under your belt, right under the wing of that BMW, see where you can maybe just take advantage of it and try to make the move forward. It was certainly a good save, though, but that's what this BMW is like. You know, it was similar to how the Z4 used to be as well. It's got the engine up front, so you've got to really manage that weight. As Wong looks down the inside, you can see a little bit of a defensive move from Nabil there, but then eventually he doesn't get the move done. Tries a little bit of a cutback before turn 3. He's going to try and carry the pace around the outside now. That's not going to work there. He doesn't quite get the run, but as I was saying, the front end, having the engine right up front in this BMW, you've got to sort of manage the opposite to what you get in the pendulum effect for the middle or mid to rear engine cars. You know, you've got to really lug that engine around the corner. Sometimes if you do it a bit too much, though, that's when the oversteer comes in. You know, they can be really fragile cars sometimes, front engine machines, when you're racing them as hard as these guys are, because you try and run as much downforce as you can at each end without sort of upsetting the balance too much. I think they're a little bit more finicky than some of the mid-engine cars sometimes.
Yeah, they certainly can be, and they're also a little bit more prone, at least in my experience, to lighter fuel loads. As the fuel burns off, they tend to rotate a little bit more around the corner. And we'll have to see then if maybe someone like Kin Long Lee here will maybe try to do that, as we've got some penalties being issued. A time penalty to car number 7 for causing a collision, and a drive-through for car number 60. That's a failure to hold the brakes. That's Sean Madison. Remember, that was Madison that we saw at the beginning of the race in turn 1. So race control levying down some penalties here. And, you know, Chaz, I've got to frankly agree with their assessment. That was a little bit of sloppy driving at the beginning.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, in the heat of the moment, you can just sort of, you know, you throw your arms up in the air, you just sort of sit back in the seat, and you're just like, oh, for God's sake, like, what was all that about? You know, it can be it can be a bit of a pain, to be honest, because the emotion comes out and, you know, people don't think then, oh, I need to consider other people's races, you know, and hold on the brakes. But it's easier said than done sometimes. Just tell everybody to hold the brakes. It's part of the heat of the moment as such. Those two cars we were looking at there, sorry, the Porsche and the Ferrari, the only two that had sort of done a scheduled stop so far. So they are a little bit further down the order than we'd expect. There is Lee, has now gone past the Mercedes of O'Hara. That will be 7th position for the 969 car. And as somebody has said in chat as well, that is a very, very good looking car, that BMW, isn't it? It looks like a proper, you know, what I'd call a proper livery, because in sim racing we can have these incredibly fancy liveries, not have to worry about wrapping them and the logistics of making it look good. But when you get what's called a proper livery, in my eyes, like a realistic livery you would see on a real race car, logistics permitting, I think they look even better, don't you?
Oh, I have to completely agree with you, and that 969 certainly carrying that load for Ken Long Lee. The Waco's flip table racing machine, a very, very pretty car. We check back in, though, on that battle for the podium positions, as Alif has not let Tan out of his sights and indeed has closed back down on him. Meanwhile, though, Filippo Bokita absolutely running away at the front of the field. 3.3 seconds right now as Alif here trying to close in behind to see if there is a little bit of gas in that Ferrari to be able to close down on that Mercedes AMG. Doesn't quite look like on the straights the Ferrari's got the legs, but certainly keeping up the pressure on Dylan Tan.
Yeah, and that's the important thing. You know, you need to just fill the mirrors, just be on their radar the whole time and just push throughout the entire race, because sometimes, you know, people will stick behind another car and they may just get a bit lackluster and just think, nah, I'm not going to bother. You know, I'm not going to bother trying to go for a move here. But any little bit of pressure you can put on could open up the gap. And look at this now. Alif knows that. All of a sudden, he started to catch up to Tan again. Tan has just dropped off in maybe the last sort of half a lap or so. And this is looking good for Mohamed Alif right now. He's got away from Molana behind. There's a 5-second penalty showing up for Martona in the McLaren, number 32 machine, as you see there, causing a collision. But right now, the focus is on this Ferrari tucked up right behind the big rear wing of the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, with its big anglerfish front end. Charging it forward. Look how close and how tight they have to go through turn 10. Typically, though, after me mentioning earlier that they don't use that tighter corner anymore, we're of course using it in this race, so I've had to eat my words a little bit on that one, and I'm gonna take that one back for years to come, I imagine. But still, here's some argy-bargy though. That's Davlish Singh down the inside of the Bentley in its shadow, just makes it through. Or was that a defensive move? I guess we'll find out.
I believe that was Singh being able to get on the offense there for getting by Hobbs, and that is Lorenzen there behind, also trying to pick up a little bit of the pieces on that Bentley, pushing around as much as they can, almost looking like a bump draft there from Lorenzen. That 488 looking very, very quick. The Bentley trying to fight back a little bit as they plunge down the hill, but I think that Lamborghini has been let loose, and the 23 is ready to go.
Yeah, it looks good indeed, actually. It's certainly a car that when you get it into a rhythm, it is spot on. I mean, it's one of those cars, isn't it, the Huracan GT3, where it just looks fast all the time. You know, it always looks, even when it's parked, it looks like it's doing 100 mile an hour. It's a fantastic machine. As Alif right now, he's suddenly going to be under pressure from Molana again in a minute, because Tan just isn't quite on the pace, and this battle is holding the pair of them up. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Rakhmat as well get involved in this one. He's 1.1 seconds off Milana, but that is not far at all, and that gap can very, very quickly disappear, you know, so we ought to keep our eyes on the rear view mirror as well. It looks like a drive-through penalty pops up for Sagir there. Here's the view of both cars, looking back from get your words out, Chaz, back from the Mercedes and forward from the Ferrari. Great view here from our producer of both of these cars doing battle, and you can see just the focus and the calm expressions of these guys right now, DJ. They're right in their element, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are really trying to go around here. Alif just seeing what he can get. Dylan Tan doing a great job to be able to keep that pressure behind him. You can see not that many flicks up there, just a quick little look up into the mirrors, but outside of that, not a whole lot. Looks like Milana here starting to get a little bit of a push as well as they start to go around those gaps, continuing to close down a little bit. big move down to the inside there for Milana. I think maybe just trying to see if he could scare off Alif of the line, and that's not going to work. Maybe also trying to break the draft from Rockmont behind, as this has really pretty much become a 5-car battle.
Yeah, it certainly has. And look there, lap traffic moving out of the way, nice and tidy. And this is getting more and more feisty. Every single corner we go around, they're just sort of accordion effect is bringing them all together. Just wait to see now whether this Ferrari can get the job done, because the question then would be, if Alif gets through and ahead of the Mercedes, are we going to see any sort of team orders between the two Team LOR cars? Are they going to swap around, thinking that maybe Tan doesn't quite have the pace of Molana right now? Or is Molana only there because of the slipstream and following on with Alif? You know, there's so many questions about this. When the Ferrari gets through, we might get a few answers to it. But look, Alif there in the aero wash, running a little bit wide through turn 9. And you've got to think that Molana might actually be going for a move sometime soon if they can get the run into one of these heavy braking zones. It's very, very intriguing right now. We're just about to get to the halfway point as well, actually, DJ. That's unbelievable in itself. Here's a battle further down. Andrew Lawrenson in the Laundry House Ferrari, under attack from the 166 Aston Martin. That's Oscar Liu. Whoa! A house slaps the front of the Ferrari.
You could not have gotten any closer there in between the two. I think there was a little bit of brush in there, and this is that battle that we were focusing on before. Remember Singh able to get by Hobbs, and now it is Lorenzen trying to get by Liu as well, as you mentioned there. Oh, that's a bit of a send, but thankfully there Hobbs recognized it coming, giving space at the apex. Now is it going to be enough for Lorenzen to carry around the outside of the corner? He's going to have to really dig that Laundry House Ferrari in there, and it's not exactly going to work. Liu licking his chops, trying to see if there's anything. That Ferrari dancing all over the place, trying to see if there was anything to be had. Not looking like it's going to be able to get there now.
Now, this is really, really good battle in between these guys. So close together as well. There's barely any daylight between them. They're going to need to go down to the laundry house after this one to get some new overalls. It's been absolutely brilliant. Look at that. Oscar Liu just finds an Aston Martin-sized gap down the inside. But then Lawrenson has to go defensive, and behind Liu now, that's Thanalapanan, isn't it? Just trying to look through in the McLaren, the 28 machine. Tries to find the gap as well around the outside. Doesn't quite work that time. He's flashing the lights. He's saying, get out of it, sunshine. He's thinking that maybe he got pushed a little bit wide on the exit there, but this quartet, 4 different cars as well, we should add, doing an absolutely great job at showing how you can race closely in this sim.
Exactly, and Thanatep there doing a fantastic job to try to close in, loses a little bit off of the line. Maybe coming back here for Lorenzen. Remember, that was where we saw this battle all kick off, going down into turn 1 on Liu on this last lap. They fly down into the corner again. Lorenzen trying to take another look down to the inside, seeing what can be done. That is going to bring Liu and Thanatep back into contention on this. A lot of damage to the front end of that McLaren, though it has to be said. You can see all the scrapes there. It looks like it's been through the wars a little bit, starting to lose a little bit of touch of those battles up ahead, but still closing in behind.
Yeah, that's one thing I love as well about racing, like on ACC as well, especially. The cars look like they've been through the wars, you know. They get rubber marks all over them, they get mucky, they get scratches and scrapes and dents all over them. They properly look like they've been used, and it really adds to the immersion of this incredible sim. Now, this is still the fight for P2. There's marbles and everything all over the circuit there as they get up to turn 4. But I tell you what, Alif, he's never going to want to look at a Mercedes AMG ever again, is he, after this race? He's got one in his mirror, one right in front of him, and he's still just not able to do enough to get ahead of the 144 machine in front.
No, he's really not, even though he's trying. We jump back, though, to that battle. Lorenzen now under pressure here from Liu as they go down into the hairpin and come back up around the hill. Liu trying to give a little bit more pressure here. Ooh, little bit of a slip there from behind from Thanatip. And as I think that lost it, Liu now trying to put on some pressure down into the fiddly bits. I didn't think that was possible to get a move done there, but Liu certainly thinking the other way around it. They now fly off in the final corner. Let's see who can get the run and get the draft.
Yeah, very important to make sure you get that run out of turn 16. The Aston Martin, well, it certainly looks like a long, slippery car. It's a beautiful, curvy machine. Is Lou going to chuck one down the inside? And Lawrenson goes defensive into turn 1. But Lou, if he carries the speed around the outside, he's going to have the inside for turn 2. Almost turns into the left-hand door of the Ferrari. Turns in very, very early, considering that he should have gone around the outside. And that has now affected him. And Thana Lapanan is all of a sudden in the box seat. Back up to this, though, and into the pits has come Rakhmat. He has seen this battle going on in front of him, and he's going to try and get an undercut on these guys now. We'll keep our eyes on that, DJ, because that could all change later when that Bentley comes back out.
Yeah, and only 11 and a half minutes left in that mandatory pit window that exists between 45 and 15 minutes to go in this race. It looked like there the Milano was going to have a little bit of a move on a Leaf going down into the first corner, but that didn't come to be quite yet. They now try to fly their way up the hill there. This is the part of the track where we've seen a Leaf have good speed. It's not necessarily on the straights. It's in these medium to high speed corners that Ferrari looks particularly fearsome.
Yeah, the mid-engine layout, meaning that the front end is just so light and it's so nimble compared to the massive V8 engine that is up front in the Mercedes. They are quite the opposite cars. There is Rakhmat for the Tarmac Works Bentley coming back out. It's quite a garish livery to have on the Bentley. As look at this now, Thana Lapanan has not just got past the Ferrari, he's actually trying to go past Lou in the Aston Martin as well. There has been an incident, apparently. We're going to get a replay in a moment as well. Nearly contact. I think there was contact. Thana Lapanan's gone straight on at the chicane now. Lou, oh, no. The Ferrari tries to come back through. Lawrenson saying, get out of it. Then you've got Lai, you've got Woods, you've got Chan all queued up behind. Look at this. Fantastic stuff. But once again, DJ, as soon as something changes in a battle, there's an absolute traffic jam behind. Look at this. Our producers in the background saying, oh, no. Let's see how this goes.
Oh, this isn't going to end well, boys. Keep this together. Come on now.
Look at the BM.
Getting banged around the Beamer trying to go around the over the sleeping policeman. Oh, my goodness gracious. That is Lai able to take that position. Where did the 74 come from?
That was phenomenal as a Leaf and Molana have both come into the pits. Interestingly, Tan has stayed out. But yeah, the BMW nearly made it work around the outside, but then he tried to join the join the circus by jumping over the curbs, to be honest with you. But what a fantastic six-way fight. And once again, it's 6 different manufacturers. We've got a Mercedes from a McLaren, a Porsche, Ferrari, BMW, and then an Audi. Well, apparently it would be an Audi, but it's a Mercedes there. I think he's a lap down. But still, epic stuff. And now we go back to... Well, it can calm down now. This is the Mobileye 999 BMW. Might call 999, to be honest. I'm on the verge of having a crisis.
And this is Ryan Houlihan trying to close down a little bit on Rayton. They're right up ahead of him. Now, these are drivers that I believe have come down pit lane already as they come around. Ooh, Rayton looking a little bit squirrely there, trying to break the draft a little bit sneakily.
As, oh no, Lawrenson's off in the Ferrari, lights up the rears as well, trying to get back on the road. Oh, what has happened here? No, it's not a rallycross car, Andrew. You can't go up there, mate. Back onto the circuit he goes. Flicks marbles and dirt and rubbish everywhere. Not sure how that happened. We may get a replay of that, but Ryan Houlihan in the BMW currently in 23rd position after overtaking a couple of cars that pitted. He's got Rayton in the Audi just in front. Here's a replay, though, DJ, to see what happened earlier with Thana Lapanan.
Yes, so this is Thana Lapanan there in the background in that McLaren. Dives down the inside, and the contact was there in front. That was Lawrenson and everybody coming together there. So we thought that was going to be from behind, and they're able to just kind of piece his way through, frankly.
Yeah, it was a big old hit as well. I tell you what, it takes quite a slap to turn a Bentley around. Honestly, you need a crane. But he gave him just that slight little tap, and at slow speed as well, it's a lot easier to unsettle these cars. You know, they just turn completely on their own axis, or their own length. As we look now at Rakhmat, hoping to try and make some ground. But interestingly, Milana has come out right in front, and Alif is a good few seconds up the road, actually. A little bit further down. I say a good few seconds. It's not that far, but it's a considerable distance in comparison to what it was before. Now here is Dylan Tan, and he's still out in front of Alif. Look at that. Alif did not make the cutback work. However, Dylan's fresh out of the pit lane here, so can we have a move from Alif? Is he going to try and line it up? He'll be a lot more fired up now, won't he?
Yes, he will, and he certainly looked like he's going to be trying to carry the speed. And remember, whoa, big move onto the brakes there for Alif. What I was going to say is that the tires will be a little bit cooler there for Dylan Tan, and Alif is going to know that. Tries to pinch him down to the inside. That's contact there, and Alif finally on through.
Well, to be fair, Alif did see the gap. There was a Ferrari-sized gap there, and if there was any contact, well, there was. The contact was on Tan there. You know, he squeezed him further down the inside when the gap wasn't big enough to begin with. Tan didn't need to move over there. Really, he could have gone over to the right-hand side, expect Alif to overshoot it and maybe get the cutback, but it's easy for me to sit here and say that. Those guys making contact, but still continuing to crack on with it. And wow, it was a good move, it has to be said, by Alif. He had to send it in the end, really, because we've seen him tucked up behind that Mercedes for pretty much the whole race, haven't we, DJ? And now he's finally in front. It's going to be interesting to see whether he can get away, though, whether the pace is actually that much better.
I've got to think it is at this point. We jump back, though. Ryan Dong here trying to get on Massoum as he works their way down the hill out of and into the final sector right now. The Audi looking like losing just a little bit. We're going to have a replay here on Lawrenson's incident. Now, this is what ended up taking him out. Remember, we saw him kind of skipping across the grass. Oh, that looked like just a very late send to the inside of the Porsche, and a little bit of contact there with the BMW, and that sends the 488 right around.
Yeah, and it just bounces off the side of that Porsche as well. It's intriguing to see that the Porsche didn't get affected that much, and then he did rally use the rallycross layout on the exit of turn 10. But this is Rakhmat, and he hasn't made it work, unfortunately, with the undercut. But I think he had traffic when he came back out of the pits earlier than the other guys, so now he finds himself still behind Molana, and a nice four-wheel drift there by the Bentley going into turn 4. And I mean, it takes a lot to chuck a Bentley sideways as well, to be honest. I do love the Bentley. You know, as much as I take the mick out of it over the whole broadcast, I do love the Bentley. It's a hell of a GT3 car. It's completely an unorthodox race car, but Bentley have managed to make it work. That is Ryan Chan, and he's just got Ferris Stanley right in front of him now in the Porsche. I think Ferris has just made the move as well, and as you can see on the timing tower, they were the opposite way around before the last sector, so that is why Ferris is still showing as behind him. That will change over now, I believe, as they just get under the bridge. This is Rakhmat just ahead of them up the road, still with the Mercedes in front, but we've still got a number of drivers yet to pit. Our race leader Bakida has been in and back out, and she maintains her race lead, 6.1 seconds over Alif, but we've still got 6 more cars to pit, DJ.
Yes, we do, including Martono, who has got to fit a 5-second time penalty in there as well. Ooh, that was Rakhmat getting a little bit squirrely there over the sausage curbing at the exit there. They've got to be able to go out here. Rakhmat trying to get that down, scratching his head a little bit. There is Fadili just trying to be a little bit relaxed. We talked about bringing that adrenaline down at the beginning of the show. I don't think you can get a little bit more relaxed than that coming down the main straight.
No, well, that's it. I mean, it's your one moment where you can just sort of have a stretch, move about in the cockpit. You know, that's one of the benefits of it being sim racing as opposed to, you know, real in-person racing in a more physical sense. You know, you get your own sort of surroundings around you. You can just lean over, you know, pick up your drink, have a swig, whatever. You know, it's a lot more comfortable, let's say. But we look now at Ryan Duong in the Audi, the R8 LMS Evo 2. As I mentioned before, distinctive rear wing on that car. Looks absolutely wonderful. And yeah, race control, as mentioned by our producer, still very busy because they're still sorting out incidents from lap 1. They're going to have a long old day in the office, I think. We're actually within 20 minutes of the end of this race, DJ. Where on earth has that gone?
I have no idea where it has gone, to be honest. I looked at my watch a little bit ago when we were just starting. But we now ride on board with Houlihan again, trying to close back on Rayton. Remember, this is another battle that we've been keeping our eye on a little bit. Looks like Ryan's lost a little bit of time there in that Mobileye BMW.
Oh no.
That's Thanathip having a problem.
Yeah, Thanalapanan having an issue on the first chicane. Whether he's sort of bounced off another car and then ended up on the infield and had to spin it around again remains to be seen, but that's a real shame for the McLaren driver. He was really in the thick of it before, was Thanalapanan, as we now have the 49 Ferrari of Musa Massoum right behind the Aston Martin as the BMW dives into the pits. Now, this is the thing. Some of these drivers that have pitted earlier are finding themselves in traffic. You know, they're stuck behind a number of the other cars that have already, well, that haven't done their pits yet, I should say. Bakita still with the fastest lap of the race. This is Pratama side by side with Masoom. Wow, that is very, very close. Side by side into the first chicane. Masoom has to concede. Now, watch out for Duong in the Audi there. He's going to try and come through as well. Takes a bit of a later turn in at turn 3. Just can't get the car tucked underneath. Then tries it on the right-hand side. Manages to get alongside. Is he still quite got his nose down the inside? And then you've got to think about the Aston Martin as well, of Smith in this as well. This is phenomenal racing all race long. So many battles, and in front goes Duong. Masoom then tries to take a later turn in. Duong's got a little bit straight on into turn 5. Epic stuff, DJ. Constant cutbacks here.
Yeah, constant cutbacks as now the battle is between Smith and Duong. There, almost a little bit of contact there with Duong. Keep it together, boys, as there they come up the hill. Again, very close to one another, them running around here. I can't believe this battle between Masoom and Pratma is continuing on like this.
Yeah, it's very, very close, isn't it? Very, very close indeed, as we see there. The Mercedes coming into the pits as Smith now down the inside of Masoom into turn 10, gets it done. Lovely, lovely stuff. Just again, just trying to help settle it down. You know, he's just right, let me get this move done. We'll just get one behind the other and we'll just see where we can go. But look at the difference now. Duong is now 1.2 seconds ahead of them, and that's how quickly it can change. It's honestly so fast around here. And with the pace of these guys, you know, that's just something they have to accept. You know, if they are going to battle, they will be very, very far behind the car in front of them that they were once chasing if they get too stuck into it, let's say.
And that's something you have to keep in mind as a driver, is that as we've got some more drivers feeding out in front of them, oh, this battle's about to get even more crazy, as now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars all on a line.
It is indeed. It's quite a stretched out line, but you and I both know how quickly this can turn into one big traffic jam. Just under 15 minutes left of this race, then we're into the final quarter here in round 1 of the Mobileye GT World Challenge Asia Esports Series. And we have so many manufacturers all bunched together. We're going to go to a replay. Our producer has informed us. We're going to have a look back at one of the incidents and just see exactly how we can pick this one apart. After you, DJ.
Well, this is, we're going down into turn 1 here. Battle between the Porsche and the Mercedes. Little bit of a pitch. Oh, onto the grass, into the wall. 1, 2, 3, careening around. And that is what got Thanathip. That is what we closed in on earlier.
That was a big, big mess, to be honest. The Porsche did go for a gap, but I'm not sure there was an entire car's width on the right-hand side throughout all of that there. And unfortunately, it all went to pot down towards turn 1. And that Mercedes, it was just a pinball, wasn't it? It was a big V8 powered pinball down towards turn 1. Not really anything that you could do there. And then the drivers behind just had to try and stick to their line maybe and just crack on with what they could. It's so hard to react to that speed. And I mean, we've both seen it before as well, DJ. If you are suddenly flying down a straight like this and you've got a car sideways in front of you, if you just launch the car to one side to try and get out of the way, you'll just throw yourself in the wall, won't you?
Yeah, indeed you will, and you've got to just be aware of that as a driver, and it's one of the things about GT racing that you've got to be a little bit careful about, not going too hard about that. Oh, Ryan Chan here, gonna be a seat on the naughty step. That is the 901 has not completed his pit stop, and he is outside of the mandatory pit lane window. He will be disqualified, more than likely, we're hearing.
That's a real shame, that is, for Ryan, but at the end of the day, they have a half-hour pit window, which is half of the race, to get it done in the middle of it, and Ryan has not adhered to that, let's say, as this race has gone on. That's a real shame, but he's the master of his own fate in that one, I have to say, DJ. There's nobody else really to blame other than himself, or maybe the team. You know, you can hand a bit of blame off to the team. You know, I'm sure we'd all love to at any point in our sim racing, but Yeah, that is a shame to see. This is still incredibly close, though, considering that this race is an hour long. It's like, I mean, it's got the characteristics of a 20-minute sprint race, hasn't it, with how close these guys are together?
Yeah, it very much does. Here's Damon Woods, though, back in the field. We haven't really focused on this battle in a minute. That is Hobbs directly up in front of him, that he's trying to get a little bit of a move on. That Porsche trying to push up ahead, but he's got to watch out. Sagir behind him. It's about 4 seconds behind, excuse me. That Mercedes AMG there is not on the same lap, so that is different traffic. Oh, here comes a little bit of an attack, though. Duong with O'Hara behind him. Is there going to be a move down into the first corner? O'Hara doesn't think better, or does think better of it. Not going to have any sort of move there.
That Audi in that colour scheme looks like it'd really blend in well with the sand, doesn't it? It looks like it's some sort of desert camo on the Audi. I quite like it, to be honest with you. Back with Damon Woods, though. He's got the Mercedes behind him, which I believe is a lap down, or is that... No, it is a lap down, isn't it? It's the car in 37th place. It's Pinata, the number 445 car. So Sagir is 3.8 seconds back now. No threat to him. But Hobbs in front there in the Bentley is of definite concern for Damon right now. He just needs to think about what this Mercedes is doing, because it seems like it's going to be unlapping itself very soon, is Pinata. He moves over to the right-hand side, but maybe just not to utilise the slipstream and get alongside the Porsche as such. A bit of a battered front end on this Porsche as well. It's a good thing the engine's not up there, but doesn't seem like actually he can stick with with Hobbs right now. He's actually getting away a little bit. Whoa, wide through turn 3.
Very wide through turn 3. Losing a lot of time there. Is he? That gap was at about 3 or 4 tenths of a second, and now we have moved on to lap 2 from the stewards' decisions. The car at 969 and the 49 deemed a racing incident, so no further action taken there between those two cars.
No, indeed. And I was just thinking there, maybe it's the damage on the front of this Porsche that's just affecting how it goes mid-corner, especially turn 3 as well, where you rely on that front left tyre very heavily and a lot of the downforce from the front end just to keep the car stable and get that front end pointed in. This is Zachary Smith in the Alfa Venturi Racing Aston Martin, chasing down Wong in the BMW, and then that O'Hara-Duong battle that we were looking at before was continuing. And he looks nice and tucked in at the moment, does Zachary Smith. There you see him. I like the guitar, but he's certainly not bothered about the guitar right now. He's more focused on the BMW in front of him. I know which one I'd rather look at, to be honest, but that's more of a personal thing. I cannot stand the front of that BMW. I think I've mentioned this to you before, actually, though, DJ, just to go slightly off topic for a second. Don't you think the back of it looks like the Lexus RCF GT3 car?
It does a little bit. It has a little bit of similarity to it. I can certainly see it.
Yeah, I always thought it when it came out. I think when BMW first released it, I thought, oh, they've updated the Lexus, and it was like, oh no, it's a BMW. But that's because I'd rather not look at the front of it, to be honest. I'm very shallow-minded when it comes to the front end of the M4. I really dislike it a lot, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good car. You know, I respect the fact that it's an incredible GT car. We've got one over here in the UK, actually, in the British GT Championship this year. I think it's Century Motorsport that are running that car, and it has been amazing to see it. Absolutely amazing. And it's Angus Fender that races in that, a man that we've, of course, seen on SRO Esports before. I actually bumped into Angus a couple of months ago at my local Alton Park, where he was racing in the British Endurance Championship. He's actually racing in a Viper GTSR from 2007 with the 8.4 litre V10 in the front of it. It's an incredible thing. It's the old GT3 spec Viper, and that's a car and a half, isn't it?
Indeed it is, and it reminds me a little bit of we've got over on stateside in GT America, the Callaway Corvette that is one of the Corvettes that's running around, a bit of a Franken car, as it were, bits and pieces from all over the world, actually assembled, I believe, in the Netherlands, if I remember correctly. So very, very cool to see those old cars running out for SRO across the world. We check back here on Dauphin Nebel and Ryan Houlihan. That battle continuing to be a little bit close. Houlihan finally being able to get on by here in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, that's the thing now. Some of these drivers, they're going to be very well versed in the drivers around them at this stage of the race. You know, they're going to see where they've maybe got an advantage or have a disadvantage to the cars that they're trying to overtake. Things are going to close up now. People are going to be pushing hard. We might see a couple of mistakes within these last 10 minutes. The cars are at the end of their tether within this hour-long race, and the drivers may be getting a bit fatigued, you know. it can happen that quickly in an hour-long race. These guys work incredibly hard to keep the pace up at the incredible standard that it is throughout an hour-long race. But 7.25 minutes left on the clock. Not too long now for Bukida, but it's been a very dominant drive, hasn't it, by Philippa up at the front of the order.
Yeah, it has that gap at about 5.5 seconds right now. Absolutely dominant from the 3:26. Philippa had a little bit of a scare at the beginning of the race, obviously with Mohammed and Tan coming up behind him there like that, but very good run from Philippa once she was able to hold on to the lead, not letting it go. Checking back here on that gaggle of cars that we saw earlier on in the race, Zachary Smith right in the hit of it, Juan and Masoom behind and around him.
Yeah, some of these battles really closing up in the last stages, but when you look at the two classes, I mean, you've got Bukida way out in front in terms of the silver category, because the second place car in class is actually O'Hara in 10th position, and then you've got Wong, Smith, Masoom and Rayton, as we see in this group here. These guys now just fighting for the final podium spots within the silver class. Alif actually leads the pro category from Tan and Milana, the two Mercedes both on for a class podium at least at this stage of the race, but we know how much things can change over the course of just 5 minutes here in any form of motorsport. Here is your race leader, Bukida. It was, whoa, bit of a scary moment there, having to go around the outside of two cars at turn 10. I think, was that Chan in the BMW, and potentially, I think that was, yeah, it was Thanalapanan in the McLaren there, as confirmed by our producer. But Bukida has completely just unfazed all the way through this race. Philip has just been completely unfazed, hasn't she?
Yeah, she has. Wow, Zachary Smith there really closing down on Juan directly ahead of him. That gap was a lot larger at the earlier stage of the lap as we continue to go through some of those penalties there. The 311 will get a 5-second stop and go penalty there. 10-second stop and go penalty there, excuse me, for causing a collision on lap 2.
Well, that's a shame to see, but these are the things that just come your way in motorsport sometimes. You know, that's just part of the game, isn't it? You know, you do what you can in a race, and sometimes, no matter who you are, you cannot escape the wrath of the stewards. Look at that there. Zachary Smith now showing his intentions. He just flicks the Aston out to the right-hand side, maybe trying to just scare Wong a little bit into turn 1. This is the battle for P3, so this is for a podium spot overall between the two LOR Mercedes, but also for the final 2 podium spots in class as well. So they're not going to want to muck this one up, are they, DJ? Otherwise, they'll both lose out on podium spots in different ways.
They will not, and the team will not be happy if the two of them get into one another as they go around. So probably want to maybe do a little bit of formation flying here, but battle within reason, let's call it, as they go through.
Yeah, we've all seen what happened to a couple of Mercedes in a certain championship called Formula One around here once, when they were let loose on the reins in 2016. They barely made it 4 corners. Actually, in fact, they didn't. They made it 3 corners, didn't they, way back in 2016? Not that we're wishing any sort of fate like that on these guys here, but Milana, to be fair, from about after about a third of the way through the race, Milana has clearly had a bit more pace than Tan. Tan just seemed to really drop off a little bit, didn't he, as the pit stops were starting. He just, from then on, it just hasn't quite had it from where he was sat.
No, it really hasn't seemed to be there really since Alif has been able to get on by after the pit stops. Just didn't seem like the fight was there. Ooh, little bit of a hairy moment there for Indica Rama Milana coming through the corner. You can see biting the lip there a little bit, just a little bit concerned about the way that car was handling. Only just under 3 minutes to go. That's probably going to be about 2 to go at the line if my math is correct, and don't ever trust my math.
Yeah, me neither, mate, to be fair. I'll probably sit here with a calculator most of the time, but still, getting right to the end there. There's what's left of Thanalapanan's McLaren, absolutely nothing on the front end of it. You can see even the indicator on there as well. That probably on in fault, to be honest, as well, as he just continues to drag that poor car around. But it's a shame the race went that way for him, because it was looking really exciting earlier on, right in the thick of all the battles. But great to watch these two Mercedes do work, and I mean, listen to them as well. Those humongous V8s powering these beautiful cars around. The AMG GT3 has been a real stalwart of GT3 racing since it actually arrived on the scene. It's been a really, really strong all-rounder, no matter what people throw at it, and it continues to be so, as we've got 2 of them in the top 5 now, 3 of them in the top 10.
Yeah, a very, very strong car as they go around here, as we've said, ticking across the line. Not sure there is Bokita. Actually, maybe a little bit close there in terms of 1 or 2 laps to go. So we'll have to see there. But Bokita's lead never really in doubt after lap 1.
No, definitely not. I think Philippa there, dependent on which line it's calculated at, I think to be fair, this might be the final lap, because if it's down to the second line, which is at the very, very far end of the straight, then we'll be all right, and this will definitely be the last lap. If not, if it's the start-finish line that you get to a lot sooner out of the final corner, then we could have another one by maybe a second or 2. This is going to be close, but like you say, DJ, you know, the main point of conversation here is R8G Esports driver Filippo Bokita has been absolutely untouchable during this race, and despite being classified as silver, proving that that does not really mean much in terms of classification right now, because Philippa absolutely flying around here at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, and even the fastest lap to go with it as well. But what more could you expect? As we look back at Andrew Lawrenson, still in the fight as well. He'll be in the doghouse tonight, never mind the laundry house. He's absolutely all over the back of Norman for the final spot in the top 30.
Yeah, trying to press there on that little bit wounded there Lamborghini up ahead of him, diving down into the corner, trying to see if there's anything to be had here. This is where a better run out of that final corner can get a little bit more speed down the straights, and especially with the damage to the front end of that Lamborghini, I would expect a little bit of problems, but we've got to go back to Filippo Bokita. Only one more corner here to go for the R8G Esports driver, and the 326 crosses the finish line and takes the checkered flag to take victory here in round 1.
Lovely, lovely stuff. A smile from Philippa as well. Job done absolutely beautifully there. And look at that, just so calm after the race as well. No overreaction. Alif finishes in second in the Ferrari. Fantastic drive by the Sem 9 Flash Axle machine. And then Tan eventually finishing ahead of Maulana in third and fourth, but they round out the podium in the Pro class. O'Hara and Wong finishing 10th and 11th will take podium honours in the silver class, as we have more and more drivers coming across the line. Here's not James Baldwin in the Happy Laps Ferrari, just side by side with the BMW, just doesn't quite get it done over Nabil.
Very, very close there, about 69 hundredths or thousandths of a second rather in between the two of them. Here comes Oscar Liu as the Macau East Motorsports machine in the 166. Aston Martin coming around here in 22nd place. Final time through that last fiddly chicane, as there he comes out of the final corner to take home that clear 22nd place for him.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a lonely race at the end there for Lou, actually. It's a bit of a shame, because he was another driver that was right in those fights early. Lawrenson throwing everything at this Ferrari, absolutely throwing everything to try and clamber his way around the Lamborghini. It looks very, very clumsy into the last couple of corners, doesn't it? God, I hate that chicane. But Lawrenson isn't quite going to beat Norman to get into the top 30. They're going to be some of the last cars to cross the line, if not the last cars to cross the line. And that will round out our race here at Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. Round 1 of the championship in the books already, DJ. Man, an hour goes fast when you're having fun.
It really and truly does, as we take a look back at the replay of what was a very chaotic start. And I think that moment there, right at that time, may be the only time that Filippo Bokita's lead was ever in doubt. Outbreaking down into the first corner, able to get around Tan. Obviously, the big kerfluffle there behind that all made out, but that Porsche just could not be beat here today. Little bit of bumping and banging. I forgot how close that got between the two.
Oh, it was amazing. That slow-mo there as well. A beautiful shot just to show you how close the racing is here. It also showed you as well how Rakhmat really got done over with that tiny little touch that put him across the inside of the first chicane. But Tan really close with Bakida, and I think if we carry on with this for the next couple of corners, you'll see just how much they door banged on the way into turn 4 and then turn 5 as well. Bakida there actually going a little bit deep, and look at that, Tan perfectly calculated that cutback, but it meant that Bakida was on the inside for turn 5 and able to get the car stopped. Alif there going ahead of Maulana in the other Mercedes, and that battle igniting early on. But look, Bakida wants to come over to the right. Tan makes sure that Bakida stays over to the left. A bit of a rub here and a rub there, but still great that they could both carry on and then go on to have a fantastic race, each coming home first and third respectively.
For sure, and our Muhammad Alif able to take that position in between in that Ferrari after being stuck behind Dylan Tan for such a long time in the race. They definitely really put it on. As we just take a couple looks back here at the overtake Zachary Smith was able to do on Sagir at one point. Just some fantastic racing up and down the field. A couple of chaotic moments, it has to be said, but good stuff up and down.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, there was the odd moment. Well, there's one of them. It's the 118 Mercedes. And one of the other Mercedes as well gets really caught up in a traffic jam. It wasn't the best rejoin, admittedly, by the 118 machine. And I think, to be honest, they paid the price more than anybody else in that situation. So justice was served, you could say. But I think it was still a great race on the majority. There were a few people that maybe will not be too pleased with their results this afternoon, but I think it was a great event to watch. And we have the first of our interviewees here for you, DJ. Our Mohammed Alif joins us in the box.
Indeed, we do. Our Muhammad Alif, second place finisher out here. Talk to me about the patience that you were showing early on in that race, stuck behind Dylan Tan, trying to get around him. Talk to me through what was going through your head before that pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell I was just reading where the Mercedes was faster and slower, but it's just so quick down the main straight. So I knew I had that one chance, which was right after pitting out, because I'm pretty sure he had like 30 tires. So I took it, I was just saving my rears throughout the first stint, just sitting behind, waiting for any mistakes that could come up, but unfortunately there wasn't. But I guess if I could have cleared Dylan earlier, probably would have got up to Philippa.
Well, obviously, Philippa had such great pace there, and then it looked like once you came out of the pit stops, you just had enough, and it was time to go. Talk me through that pass, because that was some elbows out stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I had just enough width for a Ferrari 488, so I took it. I knew if I went on the outside, I would have just been driven out wide. So, this is a sprint race. This is what you have to do. Got to have your elbows out a bit to get your position. But I'm so proud of that, and yeah, wow. I mean, this is what we've been planning out as a team. Axel and Team Flash. Just making the setup just nice so that it would last until the end, and that it paid off.
Well, it was a great run for you out here this time out. We head to another tight and twisting circuit next time in the form of Imola. How do you like your chances there? How do you like the track?
Imola is really great. I love the tracks. One of my, I think, top 5 tracks, I'd say. But it's probably not as kind on the Ferraris because the Ferraris are a bit more sensitive on the curb. So just have to wait and see, how the BOP will be like for us, and just tune the setup accordingly.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck there, and I know you thanked a little bit of your team already, but are there any other shout-outs you'd like to give here tonight?
Yeah, I want to give a big shout-out to my engineer, Han the man, as well as Alex Young, for all the work that we've put in for the past 2-3 months, especially Team Flash as well, Mark, Renkai, Joseph, and everyone else for their belief in me, continue belief in me, and I can't wait. It's just round 1.
Round 1, and we've got more to go. Congratulations again on a very, very well-fought second place.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right, well, that was our Muhammad Alif, your second-place finisher, and now we are lucky enough to be able to be catching up with our victor, Filippo Bakida. first, let's start at the start. A little bit hairy there for you. Not the best getaway, and you really had to get your elbows out to be able to hold on to that lead.
Yeah, well, look, the Porsche, the way it is right now and the way I've got it set up was very, very slow on the straight. I think I was down 6 to 8k an hour on the other cars on the straight, so I had to make sure I got the start good, and I didn't really, so it is what it is. It was a bit pushy, but got through in the end, so that's alright.
Well, you got through in the end and absolutely dominated. It looked like nobody had any pace for you at all. I mean, once you were able to get through that first couple of corners there, did you have any doubt?
I wasn't sure what it was going to be like late stint, because I set the car up very, very aggressively to just be fast in the first half an hour with the Porsche's fuel tank and whatever, with everything changing. I set it up to just be fast in the first half an hour because I knew if I had to race people in the last half an hour, I wouldn't be able to do it because the car would just be too slow on the straight and the tyre weight would be just too much that I wouldn't have any grip out of the corners, which is exactly what happened. So all I wanted was the gap before half an hour, and it worked out pretty well, so that's alright.
Well, I will ask you the same question that I asked our Muhammad Alif, who finished second behind you. We head to Imola next. Do you like your chances there? Do you like the circuit there?
No. The Porsche isn't great there. I mean, I've seen a few fast laps from some of my teammates, and like, it can be good, but it has to be so knife-edged that it's kind of, I feel like it's not realistic to be able to get a lot of pace out of that, but never know. The custom balance performance might save me.
Well, we will have to see, and we wish you luck there, but as for tonight, a dominant win. Is there anybody you would like to thank?
Oh, just all my friends in Happy Laps. They always do me good. And RHG team, just all the support. And Luke Whitehead helped me good with the setup.
Well, thank you, Philippa, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
All right, that was your race winner, Philippa Bokita. And Chaz, that's getting ready to about wrap things up for us here. Any final thoughts on the day of what was a fantastic bit of action out at Circuit Barcelona-Catalunya?
Well, I can tell you for one, DJ, I am definitely going to be watching again. I may not be on the comms for Imola, but I tell you what, I will certainly be watching yet again. I was there literally 2 days ago, and it is an amazing place to be. Very narrow, very tricky, and as we heard there from Alif, the Ferrari may suffer a bit on the curbs. To be honest, I think most cars will suffer on the curbs, but I want to just say it's been an absolute pleasure to be here. What is this morning here in the UK to join you all and commentate on this fantastic racing, and I hope the season continues to be just as good for everybody.
I hope it will as well. Yeah, be back with us on June 15th for that race at Imola. But on behalf of Mike Yao, Chaz Draycott, and myself, DJ Clark, we would like to thank you for joining us here for round one of the Mobileye GT World Challenge Asia Esports Championship. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.